The morning of day 6, and I had a letter in my cabin when I got in last night saying that I needed to take a COVID test because I am staying a second week. And it was scheduled for 10 a.m. and the process was pretty good. So it was in a conference room outside of the Princess Theater. And if you've ever been on Ruby, you know that there's a fairly good sized conference area. It's two different, it can be rather, two different rooms, but they took down the partition in between the two rooms. So they checked us in, and the little sign they gave us said after the test, that you were supposed to go back up to your cabin and wait for someone to call you, and it's supposed to be within 15 minutes or so. And so I am back in my cabin, having been tested, waiting for my results. I managed to lock myself out of my room this morning on the way. Just as that door closed, I realized I wasn't wearing my bracelet. So I had to go and track down first I had to track down anybody, and I wound up finding one room steward who found another room steward who found my room steward. And so we were able to get me back in, and I was able to get my medallion. I was mostly worried that they were going to use that to check us in with, and so if I didn't have it with me, they would not be able to check off that I'd done my COVID test properly. But then it turned out they didn't use it at all. So, I'm sure if I hadn't brought it with me, they would have used it. They had two stations, two people checking in, and two people doing testing. And so the line moved pretty well. I mean, there was probably easily 10 people ahead of me when I first got there, and it went very quickly. I had partially completed the ArriveCAN app before this. I got to the point where I had uploaded my documentation and that sort of thing. But when I got to this part about, it asks you things like where you're going to quarantine in the event that you get COVID, I wasn't sure what to put. And they actually left this letter in my room last night, and so I was able to finish filling this out, and it made a lot more sense once I had taken a look at this letter. So I wanted to walk you through it as well. So the page 2 of the letter actually gives you the values you're supposed to use in these, which was quite helpful. And so, you go through just putting in your information, of course, and then you get to the point where you have to describe your destination. And I guess you didn't actually have to put Ruby Princess there as well, but it doesn't hurt. And so you can tell it to use that as the street name. And your apartment or unit number is going to be your cabin number. And then it's just Vancouver for the city. The postal code they list there in the letter as well. And the province of British Columbia. And then you just do your self-assessment, and you're answering the questions, and you submit it. It didn't take very long. Once I hit submit, you can see that this is real time, so it loaded it pretty quickly. When it finishes, it brings up a QR code and an alphanumeric code, and you can use those going forward. tuna salad sandwich from room service, and a fruit bowl, and a cup of coffee, thank God. So what I did today, aside from the COVID test, was I went to the Explorers Lounge where they had a show called Hollywood Hiccups. The show was sort of a combination of live performance, improv, and quiz questions about movies. So they would put up a scene of a movie, and you're supposed to guess the movie initially, and then they have us all chant, lights, camera, action, and then the cruise director's staff comes out and performs a skit to be a clue as to what the movie is. And they're different, and so I really enjoyed that. It was very funny. They were obviously having a good time being very silly. And so yeah, the questions were kind of boring, and it kind of dragged in there, but in between when they were doing the silly stuff, then that part was more fun.
with lights, camera, action. I think you need a bigger boat.
fellow travelers. It is the end of day 6 or 7 or whatever. It's the last day for this particular part of the journey. And as you may know, I am on a back-to-back, and so tomorrow is turnaround day for me. This is my first back-to-back, so it's all new for me. I knew that there's normally some kind of procedure for what you do during turnaround day because you have to go through customs and everything, and so I was expecting something in my room about that, but it wasn't delivered. So I actually went to the front desk and guest services and asked them, do you have something that talks about, what happens during turnaround day? And he handed me a letter. So they tell you that if you're going to get off in San Francisco, which is of course the port this is going to be turning around in, that you need to bring your transit card. This is an in-transit card. I hope you can see this. And this is something that was given to me in my room a couple of days ago. You can present your card to avoid delays. Please note you will only be able to reboard the ship once all guests have disembarked and clearance has been received from authorities, and that's expected at about 11:30 a.m. And so the gangway is going to be ready for disembarkation from 8 a.m. onwards. And it says if you do not plan to go ashore in San Francisco prior to 10:15 a.m., that you should go to the Wheelhouse Bar on deck 7 at 10:15 and bring your transit card, your passport, and your medallion, and then you'll be escorted ashore to pass through U.S. immigrations. And once completed and clearance is received, then you're going to be able to be the first people back on Ruby. And so you can walk with them and then, I guess hang around for like an hour or so in the port building, or you can just go out and enjoy San Francisco for a bit and come back after 11:30. So that is actually my plan. I'm going to get off the ship. I have every intention of going and walking down to Pier 39. If you're not familiar, there's a lot of shopping opportunities there, and there's lots of attractions and things to do there. So I haven't been to Pier 39 in a very long time, and so I'm looking forward to doing that on my turnaround day. Solo Sue signing off.